Hi, everyone. I'm Ed Garsten, and welcome to episode 134 of Tales from the Beat, where we look at news and PR from both sides of the scrimmage line. I've got great guest who's kind of lurking in the box next to me. He's longtime respected automotive journalist Matt DeLorenzo, the former editor of Road and Track and Autoweek magazines, a freelance writer, author, editor-in-chief of really cool website, tightwadgarage.com, and recently published a book on AMG, the high-performance subsidiary of Mercedes-Benz. Hey, Matt, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Ed. It's really great to be here.
You bet. You bet. Where are you talking to us from today?
California. I live in Lake Forest. It's next to Irvine, and I'm loving the weather.
Oh yeah, I bet you are. It's looking pretty sad out here right now in
Yeah,
suburban Detroit. Like the clouds are
yeah.
crying big time.
I remember that. I was
Yes.
in Detroit for 19 years, and I
Is
loved
that
it. It
right?
was a great place to live, but
Yeah.
this time of year was always tough on me. So I'm happy to be
Yeah.
where it's a little
Yeah,
sunnier.
yeah. And I love the Irvine area too. Been there many times and that's
Yep.
cool. Well, let's just get right into it. Let's talk about the book first
Okay.
because it's a cool subject. And AMG Power. Oh, there it is. Oh, how convenient. Yeah, I was going to put a picture up, but
Yeah.
you've done my work for me. Thank you.
Yeah. It's kind of a coffee table book. It's basically the history of AMG and how they grew from a couple of guys who were engineers at AMG and decided to hot rod Mercedes
Yeah,
at a time that Mercedes was like, yeah, our cars are perfect. They don't need to be tuned up, you know?
yeah,
And they wanted to go racing. And this is at a time that Mercedes was not in racing.
yeah.
And in 1971, they put together this 300 SEL with a V8 engine and
Mm,
finished second at the 24 hours of Spa. And this
wow.
big honking limousine
Yeah.
basically was
Wow.
called the Red Pig. And
Yeah.
it put AMG on the map and started them
Hmm.
on the way to doing not only race cars, but road cars.
Yeah.
And AMG still, Mercedes kept a real arm's length relationship with them for many years until the
Yeah.
80s.
Mm,
And AMG started running Mercedes Germ, DTM, German touring car series
yeah.
racing team, and won. And that really got upper management's
Yeah.
attention. And in 1999, well, 1990, they let AMG cars be sold through the factory. In
Right.
99, they acquired half of the company. And
I
in
see.
2005, they acquired AMG outright and converted it into their performance division. Which, ironically, as I got in the book,
Yeah.
they view, everybody's like, oh, it's like BMW M.
Mm,
I think their biggest competition nowadays they look at is right down the street in Stuttgart. It's Porsche because
really?
Porsche got into doing SUVs and sedans and all that.
Sure.
So if you look at the AMG GT, they really are gunning for the 911 with that car. So it's really an interesting story, and I really enjoyed doing the book. And Mercedes was fantastic. I mean, they
Wonderful.
opened up their archives, and there are just some
Oh, really?
incredible photos in the book of really cool stuff. So I was happy to do it.
It's what led you to write the book at this particular time?
Well, I was kind of looking around for a project to do, and I've had a relationship with motor books over the
Mm,
years.
yeah.
And I talked to them, Zach Miller, who was my editor there, and they had done a BMW M book that had been quite successful. And he said, "Hey, we're
Yeah.
interested in AMG. There's not much out there on it." And
Yeah.
I said, "That sounds great." And
Yeah.
so I knew about AMG, but I didn't get granular with it like I did in
Sure.
writing the book. And it was just really a compelling story. Hans Werner Aufrecht and Erhard Melcher were
Mm,
two engineers who met at AMG, and they didn't get along at first.
yeah.
Aufrecht was kind of a bench test engineer, and Melcher was the mechanical engineer
I see.
genius. And they
Yeah.
had different ideas about stuff, but then Aufrecht recognized the genius of Melcher, and they formed this company and did some pretty amazing cars together.
Yeah, no, those cars are awesome. I remember one when I was actually working for one of the many versions of Chrysler, when I was over at Stuttgart and went through the Mercedes Museum, and they have a great display on that as well. I mean, given the way things are today, with the so much talk about, of course, EVs and hybrids and all this alternative combustion electrified
Right.
vehicles. How prominent now are our performance vehicles? Do they still have the same prominence that they had before? Is there still a market for them?
I believe so. I mean, last year AMG sold over 140,000 cars, which is
Hmm.
a considerable number. A lot of them are higher performance versions of regular Mercedes, but they also
Yeah,
have a couple of specific two AMG models like the GT and the
yeah,
GT four-door coupe. Um, the G Wagon is one of their biggest selling
yeah.
lines, the
Hmm.
AMG. So it still is very prominent. They have been getting into electrification. They
Yeah.
do have an electric car coming out later this year,
Oh,
a
okay.
performance car, a GT. It's a GT four-door sedan
Okay.
replacement, which will be all electric.
Hmm.
But they're changing too. I mean, they were doing four-cylinder engines. They decided that they're going to get back to just doing V8s and six-cylinder engines.
Yeah.
So they're going to convert the engine building facility where they were doing the
Okay.
four-cylinder
Hmm.
engines over to more V8 production. So it's, they're changing with the times. They'll offer EVs where it makes sense, and they're
Yeah.
still going to offer gas powered vehicles where the market is right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that that Dodge, when they were going to turn the
Yeah,
Charger into right into a all EV, and the market said to them, "Hey, man, this
yeah,
isn't what Charger's all about." Now people have a choice, right? And run one
right,
North American car of the year. Just this.
right. And I think that's really
Yeah.
where the market should be, is where the public wants to buy particular cars. If you want an
Hmm.
electric, you should be able to get an electric. If you want a gas car, you
Yeah.
should get a gas car. I mean, it's amazing. I'm following the debate over the plug-in hybrids right now,
Yeah.
and there's a very vocal element that says they're stupid vehicles. People don't plug them in.
Right.
Manufacturers shouldn't build them. And I'm
Mm.
like, well, okay, maybe a lot of people don't plug them in, but the people who do plug them
Yeah.
in, and I own one,
Okay.
why should I be deprived of that choice?
Right. Yeah.
And granted, back when manufacturers could use um, these plug-in plug-in hybrids
Hmm.
uh, to do compliance, okay, you have an argument there, but that's not an issue anymore. So I
Yeah.
just don't see I don't see I'm a believer of all of the above and not saying
Yeah.
it's going to be all electric, it's going to be all gas. There's room in the market for many choices.
Sure. It was interesting this week, Automotive Press Association. We were over at Scout Motors
Oh yeah,
Innovation Center here in suburban Detroit, talking with the president and CEO, Scott Keogh, of course, had many years at Volkswagen, Audi. And he was talking about their extended range vehicle version of the two vehicles. They'll be coming out not until 2028 till they're available to
right.
consumers. And there's and E-revs, as they're called, of course, are all the talk now where people say, well, EVs, people don't want EVs, so hybrids are going to be hot now. And now E-revs seem to be the new sort of darling, if you will, of the
Yeah.
conversation. What, how do you see them fitting in?
Well, I the thing is they want to be successful.
Yeah,
And originally, when they came out with their project, they were going to be all electric.
yeah,
I think the policies that were in place at the time were pushing the industry in that direction. I think there is consumer interest in EVs, but it's not overwhelming.
yeah,
And I think the fact that once there was a change in administration and there's been this move away from mandating EVs,
yeah.
you're seeing they're facing the reality. Let's put it this way: that
Yes.
it's not a push market; it's a pull market. And
Hmm.
by pull market, I mean it's what the consumers want to buy. So you
Right.
can tell manufacturers all day long, you
Yeah.
have to build a certain product.
Yeah.
But if there's nobody there to buy it, you're not going to be successful. And
Sure.
I think that's why you're seeing all these billions of dollars being written off by the manufacturers, because they've
Yes.
come to the conclusion that the scale
Mm,
just isn't there to support that level of investment.
sure. It reminds me of that, and I know you've probably heard this. Bob Lutz uh, tell the story from years ago when the fuel economy standards were raised, and
Right.
automakers were forced to build compact vehicles that were
Hmm.
good on gas. And what was his little anecdote? I'm sure you probably heard this over the years, where he said it's like the telling the textile industry only to make small sizes to battle obesity.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And
I, I agree, and I think there's been so many unintended consequences, for many good intentions. I mean, we had
right,
cafe in the 70s, and
yeah,
it spelled the end of the body on frame V8 powered full
mhm,
size sedans and station wagons.
yeah,
Well, they ended up being replaced by trucks.
right,
So, people wanted, that's what people want to
yeah,
buy.
that's what they
And
do.
you can't, you need to have either a product that meets the consumer's needs, that
Mhm.
has an economic advantage to them, like
Yeah,
price,
right,
or it's not going to fly. And that's the thing that it can't get over with EVs right now, is the batteries are just too expensive still. They have not
yeah,
reached parity.
right,
We were told 5 years ago that they would be at parity today, and they're still
mm,
not at parity.
yeah,
And the example I use is just price a Kona gas versus a Kona electric, and you'll see
hmm,
just how much more expensive EVs are
yeah,
than
sure,
than comparable gas cars.
sure.
So
And this is a good time to tell folks that you also wrote a book about EVs,
I
right?
did, right.
Yes. How to,
Well,
I'll
that
say
was
it.
kind of the genesis of
Yeah,
my tightwad garage website. Was
yeah,
I after I left Kelly Blue Book, I
hmm,
needed a car. I'd always had a
yeah,
lot of press cars and stuff.
hmm,
So I wanted to buy an EV, and I wanted to get the cheapest one possible. So I
yeah,
bought a 2022 Leaf
okay,
S, 149-mile range, and I
hmm,
wrote a book called How to Buy an Affordable Electric Car: A
yeah,
Tightwad's Guide to EV Ownership.
right,
And it was a great deal at the time. I mean, the car cost
hmm,
about $30,000. I
yeah,
got a $7,500 tax credit. I got
wow,
$2,500 from the state of California, and
sure,
carpool lane stickers. So here
wow,
I got a car for about brand new car,
yeah,
$20,000. The
awesome,
range is only 150 miles, but I
yeah,
make it work because we also have a plug-in hybrid in the
oh, okay,
household, and it
yeah,
probably hits about 80% of my
hmm,
needs.
yeah,
Now, fast forward to today, just 4 years later, there's no
yeah,
$7,500 tax credit.
no,
There's no $2,500 California thing,
no, no,
and the carpool lane sticker program has expired.
oh, sorry,
So,
yeah,
and that's the hurdle that EVs face, is that they
yeah,
really
sure,
have to have a compelling case,
right,
good range, low price, and they're still a little bit more expensive than gas cars, so they're not going to reach
yeah.
the level of penetration a lot of people think they will.
Sure. And that's a perfect segue because, what we generally do here on the podcast is kind of look at um, how stories are covered and
Right.
relationships with PR people. And so I guess Matt, the broad question is looking at how the EV story has been covered, not only really by the trade media, but by the general interest media. Has the story been covered, for lack of a better term, adequately over the years that served the public well so they truly understood uh, what the pros and cons of EVs are and helping them make a smart decision?
I'd have to say, unfortunately, not, and it's not for a lack of coverage.
Yeah.
I think that the coverage has been so polarized that you're either for EVs or
Yeah.
you're again EVs. It's not.
Yeah.
There's no middle ground. And I mean, there are a few people, and I've always wrote that. I think
Mm.
it's an all of the above solution.
Yeah.
EVs are not going to replace all vehicles. And by the
Mhm.
same token, I don't see EVs as this great evil that we need to ban them.
Yeah.
By the same token that people want to ban gasoline powered cars. So I think unfortunately that a lot of the coverage has been polarizing. There are people on both sides lining up, just throwing rocks back and forth, and
Mhm.
I think there needs to be more voices in the middle saying, if it
Mhm.
fits your needs, if
Right.
if if that's what you want to do, it's a great option. But
Yeah.
if you live in a rural area, you don't have, where you live in an apartment, you don't have
Mhm.
access to a charger.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with owning a gas or a hybrid car,
Yeah.
and so I think there needs to be more of that kind of taking a step back and looking at it from
Yeah.
30,000 feet, saying there's room for all these vehicles in
Yeah,
the.
I really have to agree with you because and I've said this before in the podcast. I call these folks, some of these journalists, EV fanboys and girls, where
Mhm.
there's no other side to it. It's just
Exactly.
EVs are bust, and as you said, that's of course not right because it has to be right for your lifestyle and whether you can afford the vehicle in the first place, and what your driving needs are, and really what's buying a car all about is fitting your lifestyle and tastes and
Exactly. And I think there's a level of economic illiteracy when it comes to this, because if you banned gas powered cars, does not mean that they're going to go away. You would have
yeah,
to ban fossil
yeah,
fuels,
yeah,
and that's not going to happen.
no,
And if you ban new cars, you have to look at a situation like Cuba. I mean, there are 250 million cars on the road today.
mm,
If you can't buy a new gas car and you like your gas car and you want to keep it, you're going to keep it
yeah,
on the road.
yeah,
And it's not going to get replaced by a cleaner, more efficient gas car. Your only alternative is an electric. And that's the problem I have with the absolutists.
sure.
By the same token, people on the other side of the thing saying, "Oh,
Yeah,
we can't have any electrics; they're dangerous."
mm,
Can't. I say, no. There's technology there that's
sure,
going to come along. If it is economically to my advantage to buy an EV because it's
mm,
cheaper,
mm,
has as much range, doesn't take long to recharge, more power to them. We'll see those cars come. And there are some people who see that as the inevitable outcome.
right,
I just haven't seen the technological progress yet that will be uh, an eventuality, at least not in
yeah,
my lifetime. And I
sure.
don't have a lot of runway left here.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hey, I'm with you. I'm with you. Well, how much then, just on the other side of the line, how much responsibility should we put on the automakers, their executives, and really their PR machines for not adequately informing the public about really how to make the best choice on considering one of these vehicles?
I think there could have been better education on their part. I
Hmm.
think a more consistent message, because you have a situation like GM killing the Volt, which I thought was an absolutely fabulous vehicle,
Yeah,
50
sure.
miles of range.
Yeah,
Nobody has been able to build a plug-in hybrid that has
right.
as much range as the
Hmm.
Volt, and that's a vehicle that's come and gone. So I
Absolutely.
think there was a lack of consistency there, a lack of consistency in messaging on how difficult all this was going to be.
Hmm.
Uh, and now you're seeing all the write-offs, the
Yeah.
billions and billions that were
Oh, yeah.
spent chasing after a lot of this stuff. And
Mm.
then, you get the people in the media pointing fingers like, oh, how short-sighted it is on the part of the manufacturers to
Yeah.
to bail now.
Right.
Well, they want to stay in business, and
Yeah.
that's the other thing too, is I think that they need to stay in business. We need the jobs in this country. We need
Hmm.
the infrastructure. And all these people are like pointing to China saying, oh, they build cheaper EVs and all that. Well, they're subsidized by their government.
Right.
Their economic policy is to dump those vehicles in
Mm.
other markets to put the competition out of business.
Sure.
So to me, that's a short-sighted solution to things, saying, "Oh, these far superior EVs are going to overwhelm
Oh
the
yeah.
market." I think on a cost basis, if you took the true cost of those vehicles, they aren't competitive with traditional ICE vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the messaging is just so I hate to say dishonest, but I will say it because overselling it. I remember a few years ago, Automotive Press Association, GM's Mary Barra would do a little fireside chat
Right,
around Christmas time, and I remember asking her um, if she would admit that their intention to go full EV was a gamble and how she'd know if the gamble paid off.
right.
And and all she said to me was, you know, all we have to do is get people to sit in an EV and they'll love it so much they'll buy one. Well, this was a one of these little holiday things. It wasn't a combative
You're
press
right,
conference, so I couldn't, basically call BS on that
right, right,
in,
right.
in that setting. But that's sort of a dishonest
There
answer.
could have been more honesty there, though. And Ed, you and I have been around long enough
Yeah,
to know, like when the Lightning came out, it was the greatest thing since sliced
yeah,
bread, right?
mm,
And we've had this with cars and stuff like that, where they come
sure,
out and they say, "Yeah, this thing's great." And
yeah,
that's the PR people. That's their job.
hmm
2 or 3 years later, when it's not a failure, they'll go, "Oh yeah." Then the real honesty comes out. "Oh
right,
yeah, we kind of blew it with that car," or it's like, people are like going, "Why are you picking on the Aztec?" I says, "Well, cars are so good these days. When you get something that bad, it's like getting a high hanging fastball that
yeah,
you want to take yard. You'll
yes,
just unload on that thing, because
oh,
they
yeah,
can't come back to you and say, 'Well, you're wrong about that.'" They
right,
know it wasn't a great vehicle. So and that's the thing that we are up against as journalists, because
yes,
we know they have a message to sell.
hmm
you know, I think if you have honest criticism, they can come back and complain to you a little bit. But if you're
sure,
honest and in good faith, they
yeah,
have to take the criticism with the praise. And I get it from their point of view. They have
right,
vehicles to sell, so
yeah.
they're not gonna trash talk their own product, especially when it's brand new and they got a lot full of them to sell.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I had the opportunity to see it from the other side. It was at Chrysler, started with
Right?
Daimler through Cerberus right into Fiat Chrysler for 11 years and seeing it from the other side. And, as a journalist, you think these big corporations have these big PR machines and they're sophisticated. And I get there and I'll tell you, no offense, but to be completely honest, I was a bit horrified by how little some of these PR people knew about the news
Yeah,
process and even the editorial process and how
right,
stories are chosen and why
right.
reporters do what they do. And I was kind of looked
And
at as,
I think at that time when you joined too, we were really in
yeah,
a transition period too.
mhm,
PR staffs are trying to figure out how to handle bloggers and influencers and
yeah,
all that other stuff. Um, I think there were a lot of old time journalists who became PR people, but then we started getting
yeah,
a new generation in who may
hmm
not have worked at a paper or not worked at a TV station or not,
right,
they came out of school and they went right into PR,
yeah,
or they were in an agency and then they went to the thing. So I think there was a bit of a disconnect
yeah,
between the people putting out the messages and the
yes,
messengers, and I think it still exists today to that extent, and it's totally different now. I mean,
oh yeah,
like the magazines aren't the force that they once were.
right,
Daily newspapers, a lot of them had, I think there's only a handful of auto writers left for daily newspapers, and
yeah,
a couple of them are in Detroit, but
yeah,
elsewhere in the country, I mean, you know, um, a lot of major newspapers had their own auto. I don't know if the Tribune's got an auto critic, or
yeah,
the Chicago Tribune, or the
hmm
Sun Times, or any of
yeah,
these papers. There was a huge contingent of newspaper people
Oh yeah.
devoted to the auto industry across
Yeah.
the country, and
Yeah.
they're all gone now. They're all gone.
Oh yeah. And that's really the last thing I wanted to talk to you about was really what is the public missing now with the loss of, as you say, that institutional knowledge where the auto beat had so many people that could judge a story based on their
Yeah.
years of coverage and have that insight. And now you have people that, there's all sorts of sites and stuff, and people just want to start an
Oh,
auto.
sure.
But what are people losing by not having the buff books anymore, the trade magazines, the beat writers on the daily newspapers? What are they losing in learning and learning the most
Yeah.
accurate, latest information on vehicles?
I think the thing that's missing now, you can get any number of opinions on any kind of car that's out there.
Mhm. Yeah,
And if you're in the market, you get a blogger stand giving you a car review things. There's no lack of information when it comes to buying a car.
hmm,
What there is lack of information is the larger overarching trends. So you end up getting whipsawed.
yeah,
I think if there were better stories being written about cars, you wouldn't have had this. We're going all electric, and now
hmm,
we're not going all electric. I think consumers are getting whipsawed back and
yeah, sure,
forth by
sure,
these mega trends, and there's
hmm,
nobody explaining why is this happening.
yeah,
Same thing like with tariffs. Everybody was like,
true,
"Oh my God, the tariffs are going to kill,"
yeah,
and that really hasn't happened. And where are the stories saying,
right,
well, if tariffs are bad, why have we had a 25% tariff on trucks since the
right,
1960s?
yeah,
And gee, one of the strong areas of the domestic manufacturers are trucks.
yeah,
Could that be
right,
due to the
yeah,
25% tariff? Well, I
yeah,
think so. But there's a lack of understanding of history,
it's true,
and there's nobody explaining these big long trends. There's no
yeah,
long form journalism being done anymore on a regular basis, and I
yeah.
I think we're poorer for it.
So, and Claudia, where would you go? What would you judge as authoritative source for automotive information?
Oh man, I um, I just I'm like a sampler. I'd look at everything that's out
Yeah.
there.
Hmm. Sure.
I think the traditional buff books they still do like Car and Driver and Motor Trend.
Hmm.
Their websites are pretty good sources.
Yeah.
Things like Autoblog. I like the Truth About Cars. I think Tim Healy's doing
Yeah.
a really good job in Chicago, and I always that's one of my go-to
Yeah.
spots. So I have a few blogs I go to, but it's just
Hmm.
basically trying to pick up news stories that you see on the wire or
Yeah.
automotive news is still a great
Sure.
authoritative
Yeah.
resource. I,
Oh
I
yeah.
check in at Autoweek occasionally. So I'm just it's like a smorgasbord. I'm out there just taking a little bit
Yeah.
of everything.
And we should note that the Truth About Cars does carry this podcast.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we appreciate that.
Yeah. No, it's a good spot, and I think I see a couple of other places like that where you do get a little bit of analysis, and that's what I look for.
Yeah.
So we'll
All
see.
right.
I know, I haven't picked up a print car magazine in forever, so
Mm,
it's just one of those things that I don't
yeah.
do. The one thing I do read from time to time is
Yeah.
Sports Car Market. I think Keith
Oh,
Martin's
okay.
doing a great job,
Yeah.
and it keeps tabs on. You learn history about old cars, and you
Hmm.
find out what's going on in the classic car scene with auction stuff. But
Yeah.
that's kind of my menu of things to look at.
All right. All right, Matt DeLorenzo, thank you so much. We'll mention the book again, Mercedes-AMG
Yep.
Race Bred Performance. How can one get that?
You can get it on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com. I think it might be popping up in a couple of bookstores here and there.
All right.
But mainly Amazon is a go-to place to get it.
Cool. Can't wait to read it. Matt DeLorenzo, thank you so much. And everyone, that's this edition of Tales from the Beat. I'm Ed Garsten. Thanks so much for being with us. We hope you'll comment, you'll share, subscribe, and we'll be back soon with more tales. Take care.